Oh, mute was on. I'm sorry. The switch was on. Okay. Do I need to do that all again? Okay, we're called to order. Okay, let's go to approval of minutes, the Single Family Design Board for meeting of June 26th. And you should have those draft minutes in front of you. Let's start with item number 1, 2001 Stanwood Drive. Any comments? Corrections? Item number 2, 1213 Harbor Hills Drive. Items or corrections?
Mr. Chair, if I
Yes.
could, I think the board last week gave direction for the 16-foot requirement for the gate on item 2,
Yeah, okay.
1213 Harbor Hills Drive. And I talked to Allison DeBusk, who's the case planner for the project, and she said that they don't need to meet that specific requirement, and they can work that out during building submittal phase.
Okay,
So
and
we may want to.
And we'll note, is that the same one we saw earlier today at consent
Yes.
calendar? Where we did receive a letter from the applicant via the city fire department, which also recognized the 16-foot issue and said it was there's a term they use for it, a pinch point or something, they can get past it. So we can discuss that when we get to the consent calendar item, if necessary. Item number 3, 507 San Onofre Road. Item number 4, 825 Roble Lane. 636 Aurora Avenue. And 2110 Red Rose Way. Do I have a motion for approval?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second? Any further comments? I will be abstaining because I was not here. So, hearing no further comments, Chair will call for a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposition? Abstention, 1. Okay. Let's go to, let me get everything in order here. Let's go to the consent calendar for July 3rd, 2017. Katie.
The minutes for the July 3rd consent agenda are as follows. Item A, 2126 Ridge Lane received final approval as submitted. Item B, 456 Conejo Road received final approval as submitted. Item C, 1213 Harbor Hills Drive was postponed 1 week to consent at the applicant's request. Item D, 421 West Mountain Drive was postponed 1 week to consent at the applicant's request. Item E, 1189 North Ontario Road received project design approval and final approval with the NPO findings. Item F, 1431 Sycamore Canyon Road was continued indefinitely to consent. Item G, 2126 Ridge Lane was continued indefinitely to the staff hearing officer with the comment that the board finds the revisions are appropriate and appreciate the good neighbor guideline considerations. Item H, 1565 Las Canoas Road received project design approval and final approval with the NPO findings.
Thank you. Do I have a motion for approval?
Make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any questions or comments of Katie or anyone else?
No, Mr. Chair.
Okay. If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? So carried. Okay, let's go to the consent calendar for this morning, July 10th, 2017. Katie.
The minutes for the July 10th consent agenda are as follows. Item A, 525 Yankee Farm Road received approval of review after final as submitted. Item B, 825 Roble Lane was continued 1 week to consent with the comment to submit and address the stormwater management program requirements. Item C, 1213 Harbor Hills Drive received final approval as submitted. Item D, 421 West Mountain Drive was continued 1 week to consent with the comments to provide a color and materials board, indicate a double starter row on the plans, and provide complete details of all windows on the plans. Item E, 3779 Lincolnwood Drive received project design approval and was continued 1 week to consent with comments that the board had made the NPO findings, and to indicate on the plans that the plaster wall shall cover over the top of the wall, and to provide a color and materials board. Item F, 762 Westmont Road received project design approval and was continued 1 week to consent with the comments that the board made the NPO findings, to also provide a plan section through the pool area, to provide a detail and elevation of the cable rail on the plans, and to clarify on the plans which items are existing to be removed. Item G, 10 Rincon Vista Road received or was continued 2 weeks to consent with comments that the board found the proposed glass railing unacceptable. And 2, to show the gate along the driveway on the plans and indicate that the abatement of the violation in ZIR 2016-00602 in the scope of work. Item H, 779 Calibria Drive received project design approval and was continued indefinitely to consent with the comments that the board made the NPO findings, to provide a detail on the plans for the deck railing and deck material, to provide a detail and elevation on the plans of the proposed new fence, and to provide a color and materials board.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a motion for approval?
I make that motion.
Do I have a second? Any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? So carried. Okay, before we go to announcements, Kathleen, could we have a roll call, please?
Here we go. Chair Sweeney,
Here.
Vice Chair Miller,
Here.
Lisa James, Joseph Matisha, and Robert Richards.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. And this is Mr. Richards' first meeting, so we'd like to welcome you.
Hey there. Thanks. I'm happy to be here.
Okay, good. Can you share a little bit about your background and so everybody kind of knows who you are and what you do?
Sure. I was born and raised here in Santa Barbara. Went to City College and then Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, studied landscape architecture.
Okay.
So I've been working with other landscape architects here in town for the last maybe 6 years. I had a license for the last 2 years, so kind of breaking out, doing my own thing, and so wanted to kind of get back to the city and be a part of what's going on here, and so here I am.
Okay, excellent,
Good to
great.
meet you all.
We do need your expertise, so
Yeah,
thank you.
Thanks.
Welcome aboard. Okay, Katie, do we have announcements of any sort?
No, Mr. Chair, I don't have any announcements.
Okay. Let's see, I don't know that we have any other announcements. I do know that tomorrow, the formal presentation of the NZO is being presented to City Council. So I plan to attend. I don't plan to speak on behalf of this board unless somebody has something specifically they'd like me to share with Council, but I will be attending tomorrow's meeting. Okay. Anything else? Okay. Then let's go to item number 1, 1703 La Vista del Oceano Drive. This is a project here for review after final. Is requested for substantial as-built alterations to windows, doors, and revised exterior elevations resulting in an increase of 243 square feet. If you could introduce yourselves, please.
Go ahead. I'm Sarah Bronstad with Vanguard Planning.
Jarrett Gorin with Vanguard Planning.
I'm Stephanie Poole. I'm the architect of record.
Okay, thank you. Welcome. Before I have you start presenting, this item and the next item were both brought to my attention by staff late in the week, and so I think I would like a little guidance and explanation from staff as to why these projects are here, and hopefully share with the board what our purview is at this point.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair and board members. I'm Jessica Grant, project planner in the planning division. So this, the two particular properties that you're going to be reviewing today are originally part of the Rogers Tract subdivision that has a really long history to it. It was a series of deed conveyances for this property that was created back in 1929 and completed in the late 1950s. And in 1979, these properties were deemed to be illegal with the Subdivision Map Act at the time. In 2002, the Mesa at Santa Barbara LLC formed and rectified the illegal subdivision. And so what you see today was a bunch of lots, and then they were condensed to smaller lots. And so there was basically two different pieces to the Rogers Tract subdivision. There was the single family subdivision, which is off of La Vista del Oceano, and there were about 29 lots that were all reconfigured, merged, and then split into 6 legal lots, and then developed with 6 single-family residences. And then the second portion of the Rogers Tract is on the lower part of the hill. This is in the Alta Mesa neighborhood of the city, and there were 14 condominiums developed that are accessed off of Santa Fe Place. So this subdivision, it was approved back in 2004 by the Planning Commission. And during this, the review process, the single family board didn't exist yet. And so it was the Architecture Board of Review providing final approvals on the single family homes. A few of these properties have returned before the single family design board for some changes to landscaping or some other minor changes for review after final. These properties were all issued temporary certificate of occupancy around 2014. The reason why they haven't received final certificate of occupancy because there was a tremendous amount of condition compliance associated with this subdivision. And there was also a subsequent minor lot line adjustment for the resulting 6 properties. So sort of all that paperwork and condition compliance for the most part has been completed now. So now it just comes to finalizing these single family homes. It was brought to staff's attention that there were some as-built changes to one of these properties, and when we investigated further, it turns out that the 6 homes that there's as-built changes for all of these. And so what you'll be seeing maybe over the course of the next few months is all 6 homes, but today we're just starting with 1703 La Vista del Oceano, which is on lot 2, and then following this item is 1708/1706. We've had a difference of addressing, so that's the property 6. So as far as for the review, I recommend for the applicant team to just review what those as-built changes are. Most of it really has to do with doors and window changes and maybe some facade material changes. To the left of the plans, we have the final approved building department set, and underneath the design, the as-built set is the final approved ABR set of plans. And so we have all of the corresponding sheets tabbed. Katie and I went through that. And so during the process of your review, Katie and I could also help if you want to reference the design review set or the building review set, just as to see as a comparison.
Okay, thank you. Let me ask a couple of questions just for a little further clarification. When the Planning Commission approved these new lot shapes, sometimes I've experienced that Planning Commission has set boundaries for footprints for building envelopes. Was that the case in this?
Yes, that was indeed correct. There were building envelopes set for all of these properties, and I believe that the actual building envelopes for these properties that has all remained the same.
Okay.
So
and then I also noticed in the brief description we received over the weekend that a couple of these, I think there is one of them before us today, has a few extra square footage. But my understanding is at the time all of this was processed, the issue of the one tool that this board has in their toolbox is floor area ratio, but that did not exist at the time these things were approved, correct?
that is correct. The floor area ratio didn't.
So in reviewing these at this point, I understand there are a lot of architectural and aesthetic changes that we need to look at. Is it my understanding that at this point we really aren't to pay attention to the FAR issue in terms of additional square footage?
You can pay attention to it. The reason the FAR calculator that is shown on the as-built changes is just how we review it today.
Okay.
We do not have an apples to apples comparison
Okay.
because it didn't exist, and there was different ways we calculated some of the square footage in the past, and then because of the lot line adjustment, the sizes of the resulting lots have changed a little bit.
Okay.
So it really is. So you can use it, the FAR calculator, as we use it for today's standards.
Okay, thank you. A little earlier today, I had a briefing by staff on these two projects as they were coming forward. So I think it would be helpful for my fellow board members to understand who you're all representing, because at this point, I don't believe you're actually representing the actual owners of these homes, but rather the builder of the homes. So maybe you could explain
Yeah,
that.
I'll fill that in. So this project, it got approved back in the early 2000s, and there was one group that was building it out, and they went bankrupt at some point through the grading phase of this project. And then another group took this project over, and that was the people that built these homes for the most part, started building these homes. And then at a certain point, the guy who was actually responsible for physically building these homes on the ground got let go for some various different reasons, and I believe his financiers took over finishing the project off. And that's who we represent. We're here on behalf of them and also on behalf of the individual homeowners. So this project, in short, this is the first step in cleaning up a very big documentation mess. The changes you're going to see on this and every subsequent one of the 6 lots we're going to bring through here, they're all pretty minor changes. But there's a lot of really minor changes that went on out here over these 6 lots because the guy building them out in the field saw things during construction that, they decided to change, but they didn't go back and get revisions on. The majority of these things are interior floor plan revisions that didn't really affect aesthetics at all. There are some minor things on the outside of the homes that staff discussed. There's been no wholesale addition of 1,000 square feet to a house or anything like that, or of a second story where there wasn't one before or anything like that. But the sum total of all of these things is there's a lot of items in the list. It's a really big punch list, as we would refer to in construction. And so what we've done is we've divided this project up lot by lot, and we're going to bring these applications through your board sequentially, and so that they're all standalone applications. They're all reviewed individually. There's an individual project review history on each of these lots, and then the city and these current owners of the properties will all end up with one final record in place for each lot that documents what's there and that has been approved by the city. So that's the goal of it. That I think discusses who we represent. As to the FAR, I'd elaborate on that a little bit. The size of these actual homes were reviewed by the Planning Commission. So the city's seen these and approved these as appropriate for these size lots. Given the size of these lots, the current FAR tool that we use didn't exist back when the project was approved and built. But under the current FAR, these are all guideline FARs for these lots. Every lot here, I believe, is over an acre, maybe with the exception of one. And so this would be guidelines in every case. And so what we did, we figured the best way to address this would be to take this existing snapshot that we have in time right now and just calculate it based on that and just disclose that FAR for your board and the public and anybody else who's interested in, and more important, and also for the record. So it's on record what it was. But before, they did not take into account, for example, square footage in the garages as part of the square footage. When they give you an FAR figure from when the project was previously reviewed, it won't include that square footage. So if you look at what they quoted the FAR for, this lot, let's say, back in 2006, and you look at what the FAR is the way we're disclosing it here, it's going to look like a huge increase. but it isn't a huge increase. It's the difference between counting whole portions of a house that they didn't count before, but that were actually there before. They just didn't count them. And then in certain cases, like there's a case where the lot lines were adjusted. You know, the FAR was calculated originally on the larger lot. Plus, they left square footage out of the house. Now we have a smaller lot, and we're counting that square footage. So you'll see a big delta between what we have now and what there was back in like 2006. But what we have now is accurate based on the way the city does things currently and based on the homes that are built on the ground out there. And we think that that's the best way to do it, but that's also the only way really to get a handle on that. So we're going to have 4 others besides the ones that are here today. But that's what we're going to get through with your board. Hopefully we'll all get through it.
Okay, so if you could kind of move forward and share with us what's going on.
Thank you. So these are the 6 lots that we're discussing, and you can see they have multiple elevations. So this is lot 3, which we're discussing first and foremost. So what we decided to do was get some drone photography done to make it clear all sides of the building, because when you're at the lot and you look at it, it's hard to tell.
Yeah, lot 2.
Oh, I'm sorry, 1703, but it's lot 2. Yes,
It's this one, right?
Yeah.
correct. So here, this is the house that we're discussing. This is across the canyon looking back at these homes. Yeah,
Okay.
so it's this home. Here's the aerial. This is from across the canyon. And this is the southeast elevation, which is also, I believe, on the cover of the plans. So we're here to discuss the changes that have been made since the last time the Board of Architecture reviewed this project. And so they involve, and we might want to flip through it as I go through the changes, but Stephanie Poole was the architect of record. She designed these original plans, and there were changes that were made unbeknownst to the architects in the field. So she was kind enough to come back and do a sort of record drawing of what it is there. However, there are details that she is unable to specify because in this case in particular, they're pretty much all windows and doors are different than what was originally on the plans. We don't know exactly which window it was, but we're here to review the aesthetics of what's there and answer any questions to the best of our ability.
Okay. So maybe if we're going to look at windows and doors, we can go through the elevations and try to indicate where you think the changes were.
I have a photo on here, which is why I have my laptop here. Get to it. So you've probably all reviewed this. This is a approved elevation. This is what exists now. However, it's because of, again, it's not
Okay, maybe it's
flat-sided.
easier if we go to the straight elevations.
So we have a scope of the changes clouded here. All clouds represent the changes we're reviewing today. This lot size did not change as part of the lot line adjustment. Okay. So there was a dumbwaiter. This is the ground floor. There's a 3-car garage. And in terms of interior changes, there used to be a dumbwaiter here, and they installed a full elevator. And there's actually 2 elevators within the house, as you'll see.
So did this outline change?
No.
Okay. Okay.
And again, this is over 700 square feet of garage that is now counted, whereas in the past FAR's method, it was not. Essentially, all the clouds are around the doors and windows that were changed. We had, if you want to speak to it, Stephanie, there's fireplace, relocations.
The only footprint increase on this project is in the area of this corner of the family room. where it was originally cut in, like that, and this area was added. Other than that, the only increase in square footage, like we said, was the garages and some of the thickened walls that were originally specified for the project were not built with the dual stud walls or the thickened walls. They were built with nominal 2x6 or 2x8 size studs, thereby increasing the square footage just on the interior side by that much. It's negligible.
And then there apparently was one exterior change? There's a wall.
Site wall. The pool was originally built along that entry stair. It was not built in that location. It was, you can see on the site photograph, that was built in another location.
Okay, so just so we go through this pretty carefully. Let's go back to the site plan. So where is the pool on the plan?
In this photograph.
Shows it in this photograph.
Okay, so is that on the plan somewhere now?
That is the original.
The pool changes are actually not before you today because they were permitted separately. And they did receive a final sign off at the locations. From
ABR or landmarks? I mean, not landmarks.
We're not 100% clear on that. What we know is all 6 of the pools on these lots all went through city review.
And got separate permits.
They all got separate permits, and they all got building permits issued and inspected. And
I'm
final.
assuming then, though, if they got separate permits, then this area is part of that separate permit.
Yeah,
right.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
ABR did review the proposal to relocate the pool and some of the landscaping changes back in 2007. So the focus of this, all of these home reviews will be physical to the actual residents.
Okay, so I guess my clarification, they're presenting a slight change to a wall or something on the site. Are we not looking at site changes?
Mr. Chair, I believe just on that wall, whatever is bubbled is what we caught when we reviewed the plans. We've met multiple times ahead of these meetings to determine
Right.
the changes. So on that wall is a new change.
Okay, so, but just a clarification as this goes through the process, and you don't have to give me an answer, but I would assume at some point you're going to want a site plan drawing showing all the stuff on the site and then indicating they had separate permits or whatever the process was, because right now you've got a drawing that doesn't show this pool, regardless of who reviewed it or approved it or whatever. So it just something you want to pay attention to.
We agree with you. The issue is having somebody go out and do a hardline drawing of everything that's out there as built.
Right.
The cost is astronomical. What we did instead to accomplish the same thing is we have high resolution aerial photos of every lot, which are essentially better detail than you would get on a hardline drawing, and they show the locations of everything on every site as it is right now.
I understand, but in the future, who knows what happens. But that's really the city's decision, not this board's. Okay. So then let's go on. All right, so we've got window changes clouded in several locations. So how are we going to do this? Are we going to see what they were approved and what they look like now?
We have the previous sets of plans for reference, but like I said, what's clouded is.
Okay. Well, why don't we do this? Why don't we just take this elevation? Let's see these windows that were approved in the original drawing.
There's photographs.
Okay. Great. All right. So if we can just see what got approved, and then we'll look at what's there. All right. So if we can go to what elevation is this? This is
This is 2.1.
move this over. We're not going to be able to do all this on the television for the moment, but, okay.
That's the building approved set, the design review set is underneath,
And is that different too? Oh, okay. Slightly, or can we just look at this one?
I think we can go with the building approved set.
Since zoning reviewed it.
Just go with these? Okay, all right. So basically, we have that set of windows that now don't have divided lights.
Right.
They're a little bit, shaped a little bit differently from a proportion standpoint. This has, we can't tell whether, oh, it has different columns, wood columns.
Had wood columns.
It's now stucco, okay? They still have a wood lintel, okay? And we have a different detailed pilaster and maybe a different railing, but it could be the same, okay? All right, then over here, we had, oh, this is,
Yeah, they made,
what are we looking at?
this used to have little divided lights and then some large door here, and now it's all just those two big.
It's those two big windows.
Two big windows right here. Two big pictures.
Those two windows, okay? And then we had, where are we at now? Okay, those two windows are now this?
By
So-
the way, these are now that.
Right, so what went away? Was this sitting out proud of that surface?
This is the area of that increase in and I think this is where the building takes a little
Takes the turn, right?
turn. Yes.
So this has got filled in.
That was where the piece was added
Okay. So those windows are new too, right?
on the upper floor. Yes, a large, expansive,
Okay, so there should probably be a
bifolding type
bubble
of door.
around those guys.
So, because we don't have it, it's down here.
Oh, here it is,
It-
okay,
because
gotcha.
It's not a
Because of the way you're-
four-sided building.
Yeah, you're switching elevations, okay. So we're up there, we got this, that's what got put in, this got put in, and they're probably detailed differently than the way these were put in. So these had shutters, and, okay, so this still is proud, there's a terrace still in front of this thing, it just didn't get built this way, and it didn't get built that way, okay. All right? Where do we look next? Well, why don't we do this to make it easier on us? I'm going to do it a little differently than we ordinarily do it. Let's stop right here and get anybody's questions on that elevation. Anybody got questions? Okay, all right. Now let's go to the next elevation, which is so it's this elevation, or what are we looking at? That one?
You know, I think it'd also be helpful for all of us to, if we point out which elevations are the publicly visible elevations. I think we have at like 6-8 elevations per house sometimes, but really there's like one or two that the public can see or that's prominent from anywhere. So we should make a point of letting you know which those are.
So
How about we point to also which
yeah,
elevation by
on the
looking at the
aerial.
photograph?
okay. So this elevation's got a change on it. How does that compare to this sheet? Is that this? No, it's this one? Is it this one?
we
That one
tabbed,
didn't get switched. No, I mean, you need to turn the sheet over.
the corresponding.
Okay, so what are we looking
Oh.
at? Which one?
Yeah, that's
Where
all
is
I
that?
see.
Oh, okay,
They
it's over
took the
there.
window out here and they added
We put the
Took out-
tabs of this sheet on these, so. it's
Oh, okay,
easier.
thank you.
there's no mullion, they've taken the mullions
Okay,
out of it.
so the divided lights went away, and that window went away, okay? Any questions on that one?
No.
Okay. Where did we next? Right here? That's the same as this guy, right? Okay, so we had this is slightly different.
Oh, and they put all stonework here.
They took all the stonework out of this,
No, they put only partial. Oh, they took it out.
went away, because the stonework it stops right there, okay? So they took all that stone away, then they had,
Took the shutters and lintel off the.
that window replaces that window. These two windows replace these two windows. That window, okay, that's the one we've seen on the corner. Okay, any questions there, guys? All right, then where's this guy? Right here? No,
So they added a,
here.
yeah, they added a clear story window above the double doors.
And the balcony is kind of the same.
No, that's not a window.
That's not
This
a
is
window?
what's happening up there.
It is. Yeah, it is. Uh-huh.
Clear story window. You got a photograph of that? Oh, okay, okay. All right, any questions there? All right, and then we're going to here. That's just that, right? Yeah, okay, and then what's, oh, okay, was there a change in this little balcony from what approved? Or no? It looks like it's the same,
Okay.
right?
Maybe just
That's
stylistically.
Let's see, still got a little curly Q, it's got, okay, all right, so it's kind of more or less the same, okay?
So this is 2.3.
Okay. 2, 2, 3. So now we're at
This is on the rear interior courtyard.
So this
here, and here, okay, so the windows got changed from this arrangement. Nope, oh, excuse me, over there. The stone went away, the balcony is still there. Those,
Stone got added.
oh, stone, this is new, sorry. Okay, so stone got added over here, the windows changed. Those doors lost the divided lights,
Yeah,
and the balcony is still there, and this was some kind of plaster.
yeah, this was round and they've kind of,
It's just become
Squared it
square, okay? And that little window is there, but it got changed in how it got used, okay? And what are we looking at? Oh, that's the same elevation.
that's this door.
This area.
These were two French doors and now it's a triple slider.
Triple, and a window up here got changed. Okay, and this is the back of the house, right?
Faces uphill.
Okay, and where is that guy? Over here. So that got changed, okay?
But there's nothing above it.
Right.
To the
The
top of the
reservoir's
hill.
up there.
It's not visible to anyone.
Okay, let's go to, is that it? Did we cut everything?
That's it in terms of the elevations. We can go back to the floor plans if
Okay.
you want to compare those.
Right.
I think we were on the. This is where we,
Okay, so we looked at that, we looked at that, looked at that, we looked at that, looked at that, looked at that, looked at that, and we looked at those things,
this
okay?
is that interior courtyard that
All right.
faces uphill.
Interior changes to the layout of this
Right,
room,
that
and
got-
this is where the the second elevator was placed.
Put in, okay.
Yeah.
But that didn't affect the exterior at all?
No.
Okay. And the only change here is the fireplace got moved, so I assume the chimney stack is in a different place, correct?
Correct.
Okay. But it looks
It
the
was,
same?
it's only slight, Fred, because it was designed as a 45 in this corner,
Oh,
and
okay,
this
okay,
this
gotcha.
chunk
So
was
it's kinda
out,
in the same
wasn't
place.
here, so it's really close.
Okay. What does this look like? Does that show up somewhere on an elevation or a section
Should be on the front.
or a photograph?
It's essentially this wall.
Oh, that wall right there, okay.
Yeah, it just provides, you walk up past this wall to the front door.
Right, right.
So
And
it's a
before
little
there-
bit more of a privacy to these doors.
Right.
here.
Before there wasn't a wall there, it was just open. Okay, gotcha. All right,
Actually, the wall was dividing the entry from the pool area because it was so close to the entry, so it provided a separation.
but that's
there.
now gone away
But
because the
that's
pool went
now
away.
in a different
Went to a
location.
different location,
Exactly.
okay. All right, what else are we looking at?
We discussed the wall thickening changes. We combined that 3 and 4 bedroom on that floor that did not change the exterior. The elevators, we discussed. There was storage added above a laundry room. We could look at that.
Okay,
That didn't affect anything on the
No,
outside of the house.
this is the laundry room.
Oh, okay, so
And
that
there's
has-
a little, you go up half a flight here, and there's a little
But it didn't affect,
closet, and they just created this storage area up here. And it's basically was designed as attic access. We weren't sure if it was usable space or not. Whenever I think the contractor found space that he thought was useful or slightly useful, he finished it.
okay,
Okay, so we discussed that. The stone veneer was removed in some places and added in others, as we saw. The family room was extended approximately 85 square feet in that corner, like we discussed. The windows and doors changed. We had change of, windows from doors. We had folding glass doors added in places where there weren't otherwise folding glass. The fireplace moved. There was the second floor and this next floor where this was essentially a loft type.
It's a bridge.
A bridge.
and that got filled in?
Exactly.
Okay.
And we discussed the pool relocation was under a separate permit. And
That's it.
that's it.
Okay, was there, what was going on?
That's that place above the first floor where we increased the footprint.
Okay.
No, we didn't, but it got done.
Okay, and then one other general question on the doors and windows. Typically, this board looks at what's been specified. Is it metal clad? Are they wood windows? What happened there? Are they generally kind of more or less the same kind of windows?
Yes.
So they were metal clad?
They were aluminum clad wood windows. They were Sierra Pacific specified. And I'm not sure.
There's something else now, but there's
yeah,
still metal
I'm not
clad
sure.
wood
Yeah.
windows.
Yeah,
Okay.
they didn't put in like vinyl.
Okay,
No.
so it's still metal clad wood windows.
Yes.
Okay. Were there any significant exterior light fixture changes? Did they move, I mean, other than?
We didn't really get real specific with those to begin with. We had,
I don't know if in the original
Yeah.
drawings those were blessed or approved or whatever. It also appears that the roof tile system, because that's one thing this board looks at when we look at this style of architecture, appears to be traditional two-piece mission clay tile. We've got two starter rows. Looks kind of like it all's supposed to look. I was out there this morning, looked at both these houses and the other ones, so I'm going to have a question on one of the other houses, but okay. Anything else?
I don't believe so.
Is there any further questions from the board? Yes.
Has the landscape been significantly altered? And has the landscape been altered significantly?
Generally, no. I mean, some of it's died off because of the drought. I mean, the landscape plan is over 10 years old, so it hasn't been like wholesale replaced with any new types of landscaping. But I think it's thinned out because of the drought.
I think also all of these homes are there's a very limited amount of area to plant because there are such steep and sloping sites, and they eventually just all of them go to natural outside of the building envelope area. So, they're only developed just immediately surrounding the house.
Right.
And back in
Is in the behind the house.
for the landscaping, there was the building department did do the final landscape design inspection back in 2014, and also the landscape architect, as a requirement for conditions, had to sign off on their landscape plan. That also occurred at that time.
So there isn't any significant issues? in landscape?
Not to our knowledge.
Okay. I did have one question on landscaping, or it's not, it's kind of architecture related. Let me go back to this front photograph. This fence up here appears to be, are we allowed 8 feet or 6 feet without any special review for fences? I don't recall.
It'd be 8 feet.
Because it has this
Yeah.
curled out, so was that blessed as part of the landscaping stuff, or we don't know?
Mr. Chair, I'd have to investigate that.
All right, thank you.
I believe that fence is actually the Victrace Reservoir's fence.
Oh,
That's a
okay,
city
so that's a
fence.
city fence, there's no fence from this
That's why
property.
it curls towards us like that.
Okay, that's,
To keep us out.
okay, I was looking at that and I'm going, where did that come from? Okay. Okay, that's clear. Okay, any other questions? All right, well, we're here for comments, and Katie, as I understand it, we're here to review, make comments. We can either make comments and have the applicant come back with changes or whatever else we might want to do, or we can say everything looks fine, we're going to give you approval for review after final. Is that
That's correct, Mr.
more
Chair.
or less the two options? Okay. All right, let's open it up for comments to the members of the board. Share your thoughts. Lisa, you want to start?
I'll start, yes. That the changes have been well presented and don't offer any, that the changes, there's something going on with my-
mic is working.
You may need a new mic.
The changes that the applicant is proposing don't pose any significant aesthetic issues, and I can support the project. Thank you.
Okay. Joe?
I'm going to support it as presented. Yes, we've covered everything. I think that revisions, it's fine with me.
Well, I have two questions. I don't want to scare you or anything, but first off, I'll say I support it. I think there's no mass, bulk, and scale issues. You didn't alter it, and it was previously approved, and I think that's a primary component. I think oh, come on. How do you turn off? It was on. The mass, bulk, and scale issues aren't changed whatsoever. The windows kind of have a more contemporary look because you've removed the mullions. But I do have a question. If there is something here we really don't like and really want to change, is that a prerogative? We can tell them they need to go back and change it?
It's just like any review after final before you, if
Okay.
you're supposed to be reviewing it as if it's new.
As if it's new.
Proposed new.
Okay. So those are my comments.
Robert, comments?
I don't think that there's significant changes. I mean, I realize you've changed some of the windows and some of the styling of the building, but to me it seems like it works fine, and so I would support it the way you presented it.
Okay.
Could I see the drone photos? I was just curious to look at it from.
Yeah, I think I got lost.
We have overhead drones, and we also got.
Just wanted to kind of like see the perspective of it. Thanks.
Anything else? Okay. As I have shared with this board before, I'm a bit frustrated in that we have a situation where we've got contractors or owners or whomever who decide to take it into their own purview to make changes on projects and not have this board review it as the process is required. And then they come back to us and beg forgiveness for afterwards. And in talking with the community development director and the city attorney, the city currently has no way to penalize or enforce a penalty against builders who ignore the approved set of drawings. So it's very frustrating. So to respond to you, the only way we can deal with it is force somebody to tear something out and redo it or take it down or whatever.
It's a really uncomfortable and awkward thing to do.
Exactly. So from that perspective, I don't see anything significant here that would cause me to tell these folks to go tear stuff down. But it's really disappointing that, and it's not to you folks sitting here, but it's disappointing that whoever was responsible for making these changes really did a disservice to the people that ultimately purchased these homes because they spent a lot of money. These are very elegantly designed homes, and they cheapened them by taking shortcuts, and primarily I'm looking at right there, right there, right there, and right there. Those are cheap-looking windows.
Yep.
Even though they might be wood metal clad, they ignored the details. They didn't set them back in. These are all more or less south-facing. They take a lot of sun. The original design took that into account. It's just really disheartening that somebody's going to spend a fortune buying these homes and they're not getting what they should have got. And I can understand, we've had many clients come to us and propose a lot of stonework, and then they find out what it really cost, and they come back and say, hey, we got to take the stone all off, and we say, okay, fine, we understand. But, and we also understand all this stuff costs money, but it's just really, really unfortunate that somebody made a decision to not spend the money in the proper place, and particularly, has been pointed out by the folks sitting here at the table today, particularly on the public side where we all have to look at this stuff. And somebody spent a lot of money on a very nice home, and yet they've got some really cheap solutions. So, you know, in one respect, I could put my foot down and say, no, go back and change all these windows.
Yeah.
Get it right. But as been pointed out by my colleagues, that's a tough decision. I know that you recently made a similar decision on another project, which I was against and expressed my opinions, and in fact was the minority in the minority position on those votes. So anyway, those are my comments. If there are no further comments or questions, then the chair would look for a motion.
Mr. Chair, if
Yes.
I may, I'd just like to point out that they do have to pay double fees when they come before you for
Understand.
as-built work.
But in the realm
And then-
of how much these houses cost, that's nothing.
And then I'd just also like to point out, if you do decide to request that they make alterations, please cite a guideline why you don't support the as-built changes.
Okay? All right. Thank you, Katie.
I have a question.
Yes.
You stated that did the contractor just do these on his own? Just, well, they weren't sold yet, they were just being developed.
That's what happened, and I agree with everything that Fred is saying. All I would clarify is that what you see in the photograph is actually what was present when the people purchased the house. But yes, they did. They dumbed down the window details and things. The contractor did, and you know, this project in particular. Well, full disclosure, my parents owned one of the condos at the base that was in this project, and there were a lot of things that happened during the building of the project that many of the owners out there, the current owners, feel that the building inspectors should have flagged or caught because they didn't match what was clearly on the plans, but yet everything was signed off in the process. So I'm not blaming the city, but I would say that, you know, the concern, it's legitimate that Fred's talking about and that your board's talking about. A way to address that is with a little bit more stringent attention to this during inspections.
So the man behind the money is going to continue doing this as long as the city doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, if this board continues to just kind of roll over, every time somebody comes in and says, oh, I made a mistake or I did something without approval, forgive me, after the fact, then, you know, the world out there figures that out. Oh, we'll just do it, and they'll say it's okay.
And there was a guy behind the money giving the instructions to the contractor, because the contractor didn't do this without some kind of instructions from the financing head guy.
I'm sure somebody did tell him that was okay, or to see if he could, you know, change the Windows spec.
Right.
But yeah, that was like 2 people removed, and these homeowners came along at the end of all of this and bought the homes as they are now.
Yeah, homeowners didn't really have, they just, you know, they said, oh, yeah, there's a house, I want to buy it.
If we say, for example, we did say we want you to return it to the homeowners would be the ones having to pay for it, essentially.
The homeowners would probably end up in litigation with the current or last builders, and the homeowners, regardless of who pays for it, would have to endure the disruption
Yes.
Right.
and the effects of the waterproofing and everything else to
Yeah, of
do
course.
that.
Yeah, because one other thing, besides windows, I'm just looking at this, Evo, look what the designer had put it down so that it actually protects the windows. Because again, this is south facing, right? So there was a purpose to do that in terms of scale. Look where it got built.
It looks
Okay.
silly.
It looks really stupid. Fortunately, that's the one side where not a lot of folks will see it, but, you know, that's the kind of stuff that
thing
goes
along
on.
here.
Yeah, that's the same kind of thing, you know, they screwed around with the details.
And a lot of these windows were set like you said, they were set
Right.
out even instead of sitting back.
So, yeah, and so they're going to take a beating over time, and the owners are going to have to deal with that as they occupy the house for a period of years. Okay. Chair would entertain a motion. Nobody's ready to make a motion? Okay, I'm going to attempt a motion, and you can vote it down. Okay? But I'm going to attempt a motion. If it gets no second, the motion dies. But I will make a motion that we require the applicant to revisit and return to the board with a design that would adopt the original intent of the approved design for this window, that window, that window, and this group of windows, and this canopy.
I'll second it.
There's a second on the floor. Is there further discussion to the motion? Okay, that's the motion on the floor. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, so carried. So we'll have to see you come
One
back.
opposition.
One opposed? You're opposing. Okay, all right. So we have a 4-1 vote. Sorry. Any abstentions? Okay, so that motion is approved, and you'll need to come back and show us an alternate approach to dealing with those group of windows.
Could you please
Circle
the windows?
Yeah, or do you want me to, probably for the record, we better point out the elevation points. Let's see, this is going to be, oh, the windows are numbered.
This one here.
Okay, 205, is that correct?
You just
That's the second story.
That's the second story.
circle on the elevation might be best because
Take a pencil, circle
All
over.
right,
Oh,
yeah, let's
great.
use red pencil, that's better.
Thank you.
If you could do it on 2 plans so I can have a set for the record as well, please.
Okay, that one, that one, that one, that one, that one, and this thing. Okay, so that, do we have another set to mark up somewhere?
actually maybe keep it over just to be sure they match.
Okay,
And that.
whoops, and that guy. Okay. Go. Okay. That's the action on that project. Do we have a minute to clear all this stuff away, or do we have another set underneath there?
Can I have one of those? Can I have one of those sets of plans?
One of those sets.
Oh. Sure, that's not, this was what I had on the floor, that's not.
This is the old plans, and they're all,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah, here's the other one. Here, check this.
Yeah, we need to keep one.
Yeah, you need to keep one, so you know what we're talking about. Okay. Okay.
We want to
could've
pull
made
that
them
aerial back.
Take all the windows, but
Pull that
you know,
aerial
at
back.
least some of it is still to go. Okay, let's go to item 2, which is 1708, La Vista del Oceano.
And Mr. Chair,
Yes.
the architecture, I won't go through all the history again, but the Architecture Board of Review gave this project final approval back in 2006. The building permit was just issued in October of 2007. The Single Family Design Review Board did see this project for some minor changes to the living space stone veneer fireplace back in 2011. But what you're going to see here today is just additional changes since 2011.
Okay. All right, so without all the other explanation, let's go ahead and you can share with us, if you can show us kind of where those changes occurred.
This, again, went through Architectural Board of Review and Single Family Design Board Review in 2011. And I worked with the owner on the changes and brought them before the board as well as the building department for the changes, and they were all approved. They're very minor. I think the only difference is the location of the AC condensing units are shown. A trash enclosure was eliminated, in lieu of a site wall that was in place. And an outdoor shower was added, and a mechanical room was converted to a powder room that's used as an outdoor kind of potty for the pool.
Okay,
Or potty.
Yeah.
okay, all right. So if you could point that out on the plan and the elevations, please.
Just pass these along if you want to look at them.
The outdoor powder room is not conditioned space, so it wasn't counted in additional square footage.
So this, what was the second mechanical room is an outdoor bathroom, and there's the shower.
Okay.
There was originally the fountain by the front door was on this side. It's now on this side. The trash enclosure wall along here had stone veneer, and now it's stucco with a stone cap. The air conditioning units were added. And we'll see on the elevation the garage doors, and the same thing where there's the stucco in between the garage doors.
Okay. So those guys,
And just,
The location
just
of
to
air
be clear,
conditioning.
that the stucco in the garage doors, that was previously reviewed.
Yes, in
correct?
2011.
That's not clouded here.
right, because we looked at this the
The
last
Yes.
time.
garage doors
Oh.
are clouded.
Got it.
Right, we looked at this the last time it was in before
Yes.
us, because it did come to us.
And we do have the building sets of plans underneath if you want to use it as a compare.
Right, and so these got added, is that what we're saying?
They were
There's-
just never shown because mechanical was design build.
Right, and there's no zoning setback or anything like that, okay?
No.
Right. And this is the little fountain that got switched. And what happened here?
Just the front door.
Shape of the front door was changed from an arched door to
Oh,
a
okay.
rectilinear door with.
Same here? Okay. Anything else? That's it? Okay, questions? Anybody have questions? Okay, no questions, let's go to comments.
Oh, the only comments I have is what's the aesthetic impact when you see those condensing units? Are they well hidden, or are they?
They're very well hidden. There's a huge site wall, and it's the only. It's really not visible from anywhere, even from the site above. It's so steep with the terraced walls from lot 3 to lot 6. It's not visible at all.
They're right here.
Oh,
Right there.
great.
Have we had any noise issues with these neighbors, to those neighbors? About the
Not that
use
we
of the
understand.
condensing units?
No.
No, not aware of any.
Okay, generally, that's the, even if we can't see them, that's the thing people complain about, because they can hear them. Okay.
Oops.
Anything else? Okay, if there are no other questions, do we have comments? Anyone?
I think aside from the frustration that's after the fact, I think the changes are appropriate and don't cause any size, bulk, or scale issues. So,
No changes to any fenestration or any doors, except for the front door, nothing?
No.
other than- Not like the last project.
Correct.
These are just site little garbage condensers.
Like we said, we went through the changes with the single family design board when they occurred, when the property owner bought the property and made the changes.
And they were here before us, so we went through a lot of this already. So, Robert, any questions, comments?
To me, the changes seem appropriate and seem like somebody else previously reviewed them, so.
I think this is
work
what
out
we
fine.
like to see.
Yeah, we
Few
don't
little
mind a
changes.
few little changes, but when they're wholesale, it's a little tougher. Okay. Okay, so the chair would entertain a motion. It's just a review after final, so you can either say it's approved.
we approved the
comments.
changes that were done to the plans, and we feel that they are appropriate and within the guidelines of the Single Family Design Board.
Okay, that's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? So carried. Okay, that one's done.
Thank you.
Okay?
We'll be back with 4 more.
All right.
We're doing them 2 at a time, though.
Okay. By the way, I was out there this morning, just as a heads up, on lot number 3. It appears they had pulled all the stone off the corbels by the garage doors.
This is lot number 3.
That's this guy right here.
Here, maybe you can.
Yeah, here. Where is it? This house. On that side, there were a lot of trucks out here. There's a lot of workmen. They're working on that house and they're working on this house. And I didn't have any drawings for reference or whatever, but just heads up that
I'll check on that, but my
when you
understanding.
come back, just tell us what
yeah,
they're doing.
For sure, with this house, there are some defect repair
Yeah, there was
issues
guys doing
that
the
are
roof
going
this
on.
morning.
Yeah, so they may be pulling something off and rebuilding it exactly as approved, but there were some issues
Yeah,
with
there
construction.
There was roofers up here. But this house, we did approve, or we did review, because we reviewed this, this pond or waterfall thing over here.
This may be similar, though. This may just be a defect.
And then I also noticed that over here, there appears to be a new trellis.
It went through, that project went through single-family design board for that additional, for that trellis.
Okay, just
We'll cover it when we're here.
be aware, we're out there looking at this stuff. We don't just sit here and not see it. Okay, thank you. All right. All right, let's go to, can we do this, 4:30? Yeah, we're okay. We're okay, I think. 727 San Roque Road. It may take us a minute just to get this other stuff cleaned up. Do you need workman's comp for the weight of these things?
I know.
Yeah. Okay. There you go.
These are yours.
Okay.
In case. Oh, you've got them already.
All right.
This is mine, and this is
Get a
Fred's.
set of drawings here in a second. This is for final approval as requested. Project was last reviewed on March 6, 2017. If you could introduce yourself, please.
My name is Paul Sikat from Don Sherry's office. Don's not in right now, so
Okay.
I'm going to try to present this project to you guys.
Okay. Mr. Miller, well, this is getting played out. Could you read
Yes.
our last action from March 6, please?
Number 1, the board found the proposed screening of the south side of the property and window locations acceptable. Number 2, the board acknowledged that the previously requested modification is no longer necessary. Number 3, the board reconfirmed the finding that the proposed 89% maximum allowable floor-to-lot ratio, FAR, is acceptable as the garage location fits the site and the size of the property. Number 4, the board found the proposed color board and materials board acceptable. Number 5, applicant is to verify with the fire department that the gravel portion of the driveway is acceptable. Number 6, return with garage door details. Number 7, the board found that the neighborhood preservation ordinance criteria has been met as stated in subsection 22.69.050 of the City of Santa Barbara Municipal Code, with positive comments regarding the project's consistency and appearance, neighborhood compatibility, quality of architecture and materials, and compliance with good neighbor guidelines. Action taken by James, seconded by Woolery. Motion was carried.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so if you could share with us how you address those comments.
So this is the site plan right here. So the screening of the south is on this side right here. Let's see, that's the two-car garage. So we had the old car garage was here before, so this is the new car garage right here. And part of the correction for creeks was we need to make the driveway permeable. And I think there was a correction from, I think it was Jim Rumbley, that we have to make this with pavers. So I got actually a revised set of plans for those, for the
So
civil.
is that on this set?
It's not on this. I just got this one like this morning.
Okay.
And Jim Rumbley said we won't have final approval until we address those corrections. So I'm going to have to swap those. I guess I need to pull that out too.
Okay. So with that, Katie, do do we even have an opportunity to give it final approval today?
I saw the email from Jim Rumblin. He said that they could get final approval. There was a couple of changes that they'd have to make in the building submittal phase.
But we could, if we
Yes, you
chose
could
to.
give it
we
final
could-
approval
okay.
today.
Thank you.
So this is the color, obviously for the color for the garage door. And let's see, this is the section through the site right here. So these are the civil sheets that I need to replace. So, but originally we had that driveway right here, not called out as, I think, permeable. I think it was the gravel from
It was the
fire
gravel,
truck.
yes.
Yeah. So
now it's permeable pavement.
yeah, it's permanent papers, yeah. And we're taking all the way through to the whole site right here.
And is that also happening here?
That's right.
Okay.
And let me double check if the project manager included any details. So the garage door, I think it should be here somewhere. See, it looks like the garage, typical cement plaster wall. See if it's got anything on the. Little trail overhang details there. I think we just missed it here.
Is there a detail mark on the elevation?
Let me check.
Okay, there's no detail mark. So,
Just comes out.
yeah, so where's the picture again? Okay, so that's these guys. So
Yes.
that doesn't look quite like what's shown here, but there's no detail of the jam or anything. Okay. Right? So we really didn't get garage door details.
Let me check on that.
We got the trellis, but we didn't get the,
Maybe I'm just missing on the sheets right here.
no, it would have been, well, okay, A51 and A52. What have you got? Maybe it's a 6. Window, door head, no. Pocket door. Wait a minute, pocket door, let's go back and look at the numbers. What did you see?
There's a section.
So it was 2 and 6, 6 on A51. Let's look at 6. 6. Those say window door heads. So that isn't a garage door head, or it doesn't say similar. And 2 on A52. Two on A52, that's the rake. That doesn't jive with where the details cut. Well, it is, it's that piece, but that's all it shows.
Should be a 6A51, should be 6A51.
6 A51.
What if it's in the structural?
And it says similar. Okay, wait a minute, all right, so let's see. 6 and A51,
Shows the header.
so it shows a header
Yeah, with the trim.
with a trim piece.
It's stuck on
Okay,
top.
and it's just saying it's going to be detailed similar to the way they're detailing in Windows. Okay? Right? Let's see. So we talked about the driveway, we talked about the garage door. That was basically it in
Yes.
terms of details. Okay, anything else? Do you have a sample of, or color, or whatever of the
It's
paving
got-
material?
Yeah, so this is Scott, the homeowner.
Hi. So do you have a,
I don't have a hard
do we have a
samples.
pattern? Does it show a pattern on the civil drawings you just got, of what the driveway looks like?
Driveway is currently concrete.
No, we understand that.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see what the civil engineer did. Barrier. Did he do any details? Okay, I don't see anything. Okay, is that it? Okay, right. Let's, one thing I forgot to do. Anyone in the public wishing to address this project? Seeing no one come forward, I'll close public comment, bring it back to the board for questions. Who has questions? No questions? Okay, let's go to comments. Applicant's trying to get final approval.
We're dealing with the driveway, the details.
Details, we don't have a color or what the paver looks like, so we don't have that. And the doors as drawn don't reflect what he just showed us in the photographs. And I'm not sure I'm real clear on the detail, but
Well, I
I
think
don't
when
think
they,
you've
yeah.
basically given us anything we've asked for.
Okay.
I think you left and came back and thought you did.
okay. Other comments?
We were looking for a detail on the garage, is that correct?
Yeah, what needs to happen is there needs to be a detail mark here,
Okay.
oops, and then this door needs to be drawn. If you're going to buy that door, then
It should have the detail on it.
it should be drawn
Yes,
like that.
Absolutely.
That's what you're buying. So we didn't get the detail, what the jamb and the head look like
Okay.
on that. And on the pavers, if you're going to use pavers, we need to see what the paver is.
Did we discuss pavers at the last meeting?
No, we questioned the gravel. Last meeting, you showed gravel, and we've been told on several occasions that gravel is not approved, so we questioned it.
Well, there's not, the gravel is on the side of the driveway, it's not in the driveway.
I understand that, but that isn't what you presented. So we questioned it. We said, you need to get that clarified by somebody before you bring it back. Apparently you did. They said, no, you can't use gravel. You have to use a paver. So the civil engineer has provided a paver, but we, as the design review board, have to look at the color,
Gotcha.
the aesthetic of what does the paver look like, and what's the pattern of the paving.
Obviously, yep.
Okay, and it could be as simple as, here's the driveway, oops, here's the pattern of the paver, and it's going to be gray, and it's going to be
Some sort of sample even.
whatever. Yeah, it's got to
Easy
go.
enough.
So it's pretty easy. It's just not here.
Absolutely, yep.
Okay.
You got it.
All right. Anything else? The chair would entertain a motion, and I'm thinking, given where we are, that this could get resolved for final, and I'm going to look at Katie just to make sure, at consent if we so wished.
That's what I,
Katie? is that-
Yes, Mr. Chair, you
Okay.
could do that.
So I would encourage someone to make a motion to send for final approval to consent to pick up the comments on the garage and the pavers.
I'd make a motion.
Okay.
I'd like to continue this project to consent for final approval.
Okay.
Based on the comments that we made having to do with the details for the garage door, simple details for pavers, and
Paving sample.
paving sample.
Okay, that's the motion.
I guess that's all
Yeah.
we read in the.
Is there a second to that motion? Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? So carried. So what that does is it allows you to go to consent, which meets next week, if you can get it on the agenda.
Yep, very
Okay?
good.
All right. Any,
We all have a tendency to just to let those things slide over.
Yeah,
But
well,
then
no.
that's what we deal with.
Yep, no, I hear you.
all right?
It needs to be done.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Is there any other items before today's meeting? Hearing none, the chair will call the meeting closed, adjourned.